Everybody, we're ready to move. So, good morning and welcome to Tipuna Kōrero meeting of the 4th of August. It's been a while. So, can I ask, before I open the meeting, Taku to give us a karakia, please? Thank you very much, Taku. Apologies, there are none. Sorry? We have Mose beaming in. And that moves us to item number 2 on the agenda, which is public forum. And we have Paul Setefano here to give us a presentation on Community Pacifica Creative and Performing Arts group for Porirua. If you'd like to come forward, Paul. And have a seat there. Is that on? Thank you, Ewan. So, Paul, you've got 10 minutes, and if you want to leave some time for questions, you can do that as well, but that's in the 10 minutes. Okay? Great. There you go.
Thank you. Firstly, kia ora everyone. Happy Cook Island Language Week. So I represent a small group of families and who've worked to put this slide deck together, and it's based on something that we see as a gap in our community and something that I'm really, really excited to present to you today. So it is kind of like a proof of concept, or if you work in a business space, it's like a minimum viable product or MVP. So this is kind of like our why statement. We just wanted to create a group where our community and our youth can come and enjoy and play classical and contemporary music together. We wanted to create a space where we could be Pacifica by purpose, Pacifica by default, because that's who we are. We've found that in other places we've had to apologise or try and squeeze our ethnicity into different programs and that sort of thing. So yeah, we want this to be purely by us and with us sort of thing. And we also want to explore other forms of expression through the arts, like music, dance, singing, and there's the visual arts and literature. That's how we tell stories and pass lineage down. This slide here is an important slide to have because it talks about how we came together and why we came together. So we were in an environment where we felt there was increasing sort of behaviours and culture that didn't really sit well with us sort of thing, and we try to call a lot of things out, but just about this time last year we kind of came to a decision where, listen, this isn't healthy for us to stay in this environment. We're going to move away. And so we went back to what we called our first principles. And so that's our ethnicity. We had a community workshop last year when we identified some cool things that happened in that space and some other things. And we've used those things to inform a risk framework to help us with our mapping on the rest of the things I'm going to show you today. Obviously, youth is a big part of what we want to do. Our culture, our beliefs, our origin, we're Christian-based people. And we found that a lot of our anchor and our North Star came from our beliefs and our authenticity through knowing exactly who we are and what our role is in this community. What's been the biggest barrier to getting our initiative off the ground? Because we started talking about it in August last year and we've had different meetings and that sort of thing. It's this. It's money. And so all those things, I could read them all out, but they all equate to overhead sort of thing. So the things you need to start something and keep it going and keep it sustainable and reaching goals and that sort of thing. And none of those things will come as a surprise to anyone in this room, but they are absolutely essential things that we need to do. Unfortunately, what we also saw is money drove a lot of these behaviours, which saw some of the separation that we had in other groups that we were in. And these were some of the words that informed our risk framework, so we put in some interventions to help us identify and intercept these things before they became issues. But how do we get over the fact that we need money and we don't have any? But we don't want money to be the thing that launches us. We don't want money to be the thing that motivates us. So we're going to start the way our parents and our grandparents came when they left the islands and they came to Aotearoa. We're starting with nothing. We don't have a cent, we don't have any instruments, we don't have a place to call home. What we do have is an undeniable belief that there is something better out there for our kids and our people and our culture. We have an unwavering determination amongst our small core group to go and pursue that thing, and we have the courage to disrupt what we felt comfortable in, disrupt our families to chase this thing, just like our parents did. They uprooted themselves from the islands where it was warm and food was plentiful, and they came to these lands because they knew there was something better for their kids. We're starting with us. We're starting with a small core of group of parents, and we're all volunteers in that, and we figured that we're enough. We're enough to get this thing going. Cool. So we've roped in some really, really high-powered global icons in Tuilangi Dr. Ingles Ete. So if your kids enjoyed the musical Moana, they were singing songs that he wrote, and he provided the choir to sing those songs for those movies. He's also led a bunch of other global shows and performances around the world with really big iconic names. Taloa Fraimel, who you might recognise, he's one of our own. He's born and bred Porirua, Aotea College boy. He's now studying music as a violin major at the School of Music at Victoria University. So I like to describe Taloa, if you don't follow classical music circles, he is the Jonah Lomu of violins. He is getting pinched all the time and reached out to by professional music organisations all over the world. So he's playing with a couple of soloists at the Martinborough next month, and we're all going along to support him. So all our creative and artistic direction is going to come from these two amazing Pacifica leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to talk to you about Malanga Sa, the Creative and Performing Arts Academy for Porirua. Malanga Sa, it means sacred journey, and it's a name that means the same thing in a lot of different Pacific languages, and it's a theme that resonates with a whole bunch of us, and that because it honours our parents who came from the islands and to settle here. A lot of our communities work in entry-level roles and that. They're the cleaners, they work night shifts and that, and so we want to create a platform where them and their kids can feel empowered. For some of us, it's a place where we can move from feeling oppressed to actually creating something really, really positive and being included. And to move from a lot of colonial and Eurocentric themes and pursuits to something that's actually for our community. So our point of difference, so for the first 2 years, we're going to be completely 100% voluntary. We're just going to be run by everyday mums and dads like me. So we've made a commitment to ourselves that we're going to make time for this, and we're going to make time for each other to make sure this is run. And of course, we're not in it for any money. So a slight tweak to the next series of bullet points, by Pacifica, with Pacifica. So this allows us to open up the doors to other ethnicities and that sort of thing, because I hear a lot by Pacifica, for Pacifica, and that's all really good, but we want to just create a space where we can embrace anyone, as long as they come to us with the same spirit, the same heart, the same energy. We'll embrace them with our sense of humour, our cuisine, how we pray, what the things that are important to us, our cuisine. Big community, big community theme. We want to create a space where we can tell our stories in our way, sort of thing. Doing the consultation up front was really, really important to us. A lot of our workshops in that, and said these are the people we need to talk to. And one of them, we made a friend who's sitting at the table today. And we want to base it here in Porirua. How am I doing for time? I tend to waffle.
Carry on.
Okay, cool. Cool. Just one slide on kind of like an operating model, if you will, how we're going to do it. So we're going to Tautua is what Pacific Islanders have been doing, and recently Western academics caught up with this and other leadership models and called it servant leadership. So Tautua to us is understanding, recognising that leadership is actually service. It's more service than anything else. So back in the original, the old days, and that when titles were given out in villages, and that they went to the most skilled hunter or the best farmer or the most skilled fisherman, because they would catch and provide for the whole village, not just for their families. So they ended up being the hardest working servants in the village. And it kind of turns that Western leadership dynamic triangle upside down. We're traditionally the chief executive sits at the top and everyone else below him. So Tautua, we kind of turn that upside down, and the person with the biggest title is actually the hardest working servant. And the whanawhale model is a very traditional and very popular Pacific sort of leadership and management framework that we're adopting. And we don't have to tweak a lot of it because it fits us perfectly. And the illustration is it uses those pillars to anchor and to prop up a lot of the things that we want to pursue. So how are we going to avoid falling into some of the traps that we've seen in other places in that? We're just going to be open and honest. We can do that because we're very small footprint at the moment. We're going to have regular talanoas and kōreros. We're going to share, we're going to eat, we're going to pray together, and we're going to follow up and collect feedback and follow up on what we say we're going to do. Here's some of the benefits of that operating model from the previous slide. Because we've got such a small footprint in that, so we can be 100% transparent. We're just going to fund projects. So we're not going to fund any of the operations for the first couple of years. We'll be funding projects and that will be run by volunteers within our core group. Allows us to be 100% authentic, and because of our small footprint, we can be agile and nimble. By us, for us. And we definitely want to have some fun. We want to create a space where kids and families can come and have fun. We mapped out a 3-year roadmap. So this year we're just going to start with what we know, and that's violins, and we're going to incorporate some choir singing. I want to get into some of the digital channels, initially just in the social media space at the moment, because that's a massive way that our youth communicate. We want to get into churches. You can't engage Pacific people if you don't want to get into churches. So we're going to reach out to our church ministers, our choir masters, and people who run our pianists and that, and we want to find out ways that we can get our group into there and collaborate with them. I want to have a concert at the end of the year. That 29th of October date is kind of tentative at the moment. So the first 2 years are really big for us, sort of thing, but we're going to run them as a voluntary project by project basis. 2024, I think we're going to have to come together and reset and think, okay, cool, depending on how this is going, we want to expand and we want to bring in new blood, we want to bring in governance experts, want to establish some sustainable and strategic funding and partnerships sort of thing. And that last bullet point at the bottom is kind of the one I want to talk to you guys about today. I want to create a performing arts theatre for Porirua. So every time we want to stage a big show in that, we've got to retrofit the arena, and that's cool in that, but the sound never balances right because it was designed and built as a sports arena. But we want this theatre also to be a place where we can have rehearsal spaces, we can have shared community office spaces. We have a recording studio, a cafeteria, and just a library and other things, and that, just somewhere where we can all come together and share and enjoy. And when we want to throw a big show, we've got a 300, 400 seat venue there sitting for us to use. We can, Cool. Here's some social outcomes that we're looking to establish over the next few years. A big one for me is to be able to tell our stories our way, sort of thing, rather than having our stories sort of designed and dictated and told in a way that doesn't really resonate with our people. It'll be strong youth lead, but we want it to be intergenerational, so we want to incorporate all the families. We want to bring the mums and dads and aunties and uncles in to learn alongside their kids or to learn from their kids. We want to create wealth, so not riches, we want to create wealth. So wealth is shared wealth, community wealth, cultural wealth. Right. We mapped out some key performance indicators, some that will align to, there's some stretch goals in what we want to do over the next week, but I think it's important to have those because, just to make sure that we're always adding value and representing our community and our cultures accurately and with value. So when can we start? Well, we've started already. Here's a planning board. So we use a blend of agile project methodologies and some waterfall stuff and that sort of thing. So we want to launch with a concert at the end of the year, of which you'll be all receiving an invite to. We're hoping that to be a full immersion full sensory experience of Pacifica, what it means to be Pacifica. So not just in music, there'll be dance and food and singing and some more food. So I look forward to that. Yeah, that's coming up at the end of the year. And that's it with the people of the Malanga. We think we're enough to get this going, but we're going to need some help.
Thank you, Paul. Councillors, do you have any questions of Paul? Yes, Mayor Baker.
Sorry. Have you actually set a trust up or anything to start raising funds?
Nope. No.
Are you going to? Because the only way to keep going is obviously...
Yeah. Cool.
I'm not trying to tell you how to do it. To give you funding from any organisation, we need a... Yeah.
Yeah, we've managed to find a couple of funders and that who provide up to a certain threshold without you having to establish those things at all. But yeah, definitely it is on our roadmap to do that sort of at the end of the year. Yeah, 2023. But yeah, so we'll probably tap into the same funding organisation to fund different projects as we go. Yeah.
Right. Kylie?
Thank you. Just two quick questions. The first is, what's kind of the average age group is this targeted to? And the second is, other than money, what support do you need from us?
Cool. So the first question, I guess the average age group, they're mainly teenage children, so secondary school, so sort of about 16 to about 19 sort of thing. In terms of support from the council, this was just really just to show you what we're doing, really. I'm not really asking for anything from you guys, just to, other than to share this idea and the fact that we've identified this gap. And we're going to try and do as much as we can under a voluntary basis and just us, but yeah, we will need help.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is an amazing initiative to support. So if you have any ideas of how we can support you, then just reach out to.
Thank you, Councillor.
Izzy?
Kia ora ana, Paul. Thanks for coming in. Hey, I think this is the first time I've ever been excited about a project that you've come through with, like to present at council. No disrespect, but this feels like it's authentic. It's about our people. It's about amplifying our Pacifica voice. So I'm excited about it. But I reiterate what the Mayor has said around creating a trust so that you can actually go out, because there's so many funders out there that are willing to back something like this. And I think you'll find there'll be huge support to help get this get this cab off the rank. The Creative Performance and Arts Theatre is a huge undertaking. Last year we went out to, in the long-term plan, and we asked for feedback on it and whether people in Porirua would support having something like this in Porirua. It wasn't supported. There was a huge group of people that weren't supporting it. So that, I think, just signalling, I guess, did you feed into that process, and also letting you know that it would be hard to get the favour of our people to get that across the table as well. The violins as well, like I see that you guys are trying to look for violins. Again, that's a huge undertaking in terms of getting the funding. I know before, and other groups that have tried to get the violins out into our communities, they've had to go, to certain places. Create that trust so that people can get behind you. Yeah. And that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. Whāwhoi, then you, Taku.
Thanks, Paul. I love the concept. Just a question: is there another model like this around?
El Sistema, which originated overseas and that sort of thing, it has been adapted and used in New Zealand and that, but they still got some frameworks that are kind of aligned to things that won't sort of click. Fit us.
And I do hear loud and clear that when you said that this is Pacifica, for Pacific,
with Pacifica, yeah.
With us. Just another question. With your name in the beginning, but then you had Malanga Sa.
Yeah.
So is Malanga Sa, what's that as part? So that's it's under the umbrella of the Pacific Creative.
Yeah. So we're calling ourselves the Malanga Sa Creative and Performing Arts Academy. Very aspirational. Very big. Probably very naive, but got to start somewhere.
And how many people at the moment are in your group?
At the moment, we have a core of about 7 families. And there's about another 14 or 15 that are waiting for this thing to form before they join us.
Taku, then
Kia
you.
ora. Kia ora. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for that update. And we've had a sit down with the group approached Ngāti Toa to see what our reaction was and how we can get in behind this program. And I think it's a great initiative. It's going to be a great program for the community. And I like the aspects of it driven by a key point of it is whānau culture. And we've had a great discussion about it. And we look forward anyway to jumping on board.
Thanks, Taku. Ewan.
I guess one of my biggest disappointments that since I've been on council is that we've been looking at a performing arts group for a theatre for back in the early year, and we spent a lot of time, energy, and money in trying to organise. We actually designed the theatre. We had everything organised to sit on Whitireia, because the important thing about a performing arts centre is that it's got to be multi-usable, because it won't be sustainable on its own. So it was the idea of incorporating it with Whitireia, because in those days we had the Whitireia Performing Arts Group, which was well known worldwide. They used to tour the world, and and I had the pleasure of going to Australia with them, and they're just an amazing ambassadors. It was always a disappointment to me that they were taken away, because they were synonymous to Porirua. Everywhere you went, they talked about the Whitireia Performing Arts Group. So I think it's a theatre, and I look at Porirua or the Kapiti Coast, and they've got one attached to one of the colleges up there, which seems to be very successful. So, I mean, I just wish that, as I say, we had a world-renowned designer come from New York to design this thing, and we had it all set up. It was $13 million, then it became $20 million, and so that's the sort of money you're looking at to do it properly. Just building another hall isn't going to work. It's got to be done properly, and it's a big investment. And there is a lot of resentment in the community, like there was. I just reflect on the Te Rauparaha Arena when we built that or rebuilt that. There was a huge backlash on that. Oh, no, we'll never use it. It's not for us. Why are you spending our taxpayers' money? And look at it today. The number of people that went through there at the weekend, and just the things we do there. So it would be great for the city. It's a big job, it's a lot of money, but if you're going to do it, you've got to do it properly, because another hall isn't going to work.
Thank you, Ewan. I've just been reminded, and it's probably very true, the price is likely to be $50 million now, given what's happened to costs. But that shouldn't necessarily put us off. Are there any other questions from councillors? If not, I'll thank you, Paul, for that very professional approach to delivering that information to us, and I wish you, on behalf of all of us, all the best, and you'll come back to us, no doubt, in terms of keeping us up to date.
Yep.
So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, councillors, that now moves us to item 3 on the agenda, which is conflict of interest declarations. Are there any to declare? I take it not. We'll therefore move on to notification of extraordinary business, and there are no items of extraordinary business. So we'll move to item 5, confirmation of minutes of the Tipuna Kōrero meeting of the 14th of July. I'm going to move those as a true and correct record. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Mike Duncan. Anybody have any alterations, comments? No? Very good. I'll move the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you, everyone. Now that moves us to item 6.1, which is a City Council bylaw. I'll take my glasses off. I'm going to ask Ron. So I'm going to move it to get it onto the table. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Mayor Baker. We have a seconder. This is regarding revocation of our part of our bylaw and speed limits. I'm going to take it as read, but Ron, can you just very, very briefly just talk to us about what this means?
Yes, through the chair. Thank you. So basically, on the 19th of May, a new piece of legislation come into being, which was the speed limits 2002, and there was also another piece of legislation the Land Transport Register of Land Transport Records. And basically at that time, when that came in, the bylaws that we currently have are now superseded by the National Speed Limit Register, which is the official national register of speed limits. So the bylaw we have now, well, we've got it, it's not the legal instrument anymore, it's the National Speed Limit Register. So the plan is basically it's not needed, so we could revoke that, and then what we do is we update the website, and then we do some publicity, let all the public know that it's been updated, and we also let them know that there's a link there, and they can go in and everyone can see where the speed limits are and what they are, and that's essentially it.
Thank you, Ron. Are there any questions from councillors? Yes, Ewan.
Excuse me. So what's the procedure then, like we're looking hopefully at doing something with the link roads. So how do you go about, if it's no longer a local sort of bylaw, it's part of the national thing, how do you go about changing something if we want to in terms of a specific area?
Through the chair. So there's a process that we go through, and we essentially go through that process, which is it's set out in the speed limits rule, which is a speed management plan, which is a new way of doing things. And we follow that, and then that goes to Waka Kotahi, and it will go into the National Speed Limits Register, and providing it meets the criteria, they will certify it, and it will become legal. But it has to be, the key thing is it has to be safe and appropriate, which we mentioned at one of our previous meetings.
So does that mean that they virtually have the final say, and even if we want something and we think it's important for our area, they can tell us to take a hike?
Yes.
But it has to meet certain criteria, whatever we do anyway, and that's laid out in those.
That's correct, and we're working on that as we speak.
Okay. So just one other question. So essentially we would do what we do now, like for example in Raiha Street and
Yes.
Titahi Bay Road, which is coming, and Papakowhai Road.
Yep, a lot of those processes are still, in terms of engaging, consulting with the public, we still want to do that. It's just the legal instrument has changed. National Speed Limit Register supersedes the bylaw.
Yep. Okay. So, yes, Mayor Baker.
Okay, so our process itself usually takes 3 or 4 months. We're really slow. How long is it going to take for them to then go through their system to come back and approve it?
Well, through the chair again, most of it is through the speed management plans, and so instead of, in the past it's been a little bit ad hoc, so the idea is there's a lot more consistency. We'd put that out to the public, we get feedback in, and then once we've got that speed management plan, that would go and be incorporated into a regional speed management plan, and then hopefully then they would just sign off on that. But what we have to demonstrate is that roads are basically safe and appropriate. The speed limit is.
I haven't really answered the question, but thank you.
It's true.
Will be longer.
There's quite a bit to it.
Through the chair, the pressure will be on them. Yeah. So I think your point's very well made. We have an issue with Raiha Street where this council has determined that their speed should be reduced from 70k to 50k, and the starting date for that was the 1st of August, but we're still waiting for Waka Kotahi to sign that off. So we can't ticket anyone, police couldn't ticket anyone. So
we have Raiha in process.
Yep.
So they don't have a statutory time frame like we have for building consents, 20 days? Do they have that? No.
So they will have to build up capacity to do it because all councils are now have to comply with this.
Yeah. And there might be a slew of them from councils that will set them back a foot. Jeff, you had a question? No, oh, okay. Thank you. Yes, Josh.
Thanks. Yeah. So, am I right in thinking that sort of regardless of this decision, so this has already happened. The change has been made. This is how it's governed. This is just a formality, but the decision we're making today doesn't actually do anything.
Through the chair, correct.
Yeah,
correct.
And this doesn't actually impact any speed limits existing in Porirua right now. Okay.
No, this is just revocation.
Yep. Yeah. Cool.
Yep. Correct. All right. If there's no other comments, I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Those against? Carried. And that brings us to the end of the meeting.
Thank you.
What?
No, it's my mistake. If you've just followed the agenda, there are parts and public included.
Oh, are there? Hold on, I'll have to go back to it then.
14th of July need to be confirmed.
I thought we did confirm it.
No.
Public excluded minutes. Okay, hold on. Here we go. All right, so let's move. Sorry, that's, yes. We're going to move to public excluded. Yes, I've put it. Thank you very much. All those in favour? Against? Are we offline?